before we jump into this ultimate battle between the Nikon and the Canons, if you haven't signed up for the Froknows Photo email list, you can do so. Just look for this orange box over on the website, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I will send you a free guide to capturing motion in low-light situations. Jared Polin, FroknowsPhoto.com, and welcome to the ultimate battle comparison between the Nikons and the Canon lineup of full-frame cameras plus the 7D Mark II without the Nikon DF. There's reasons for that. We don't like the DF, in my opinion, and the 7D Mark II fits in the lineup. It probably should be here. Now, I've picked the Nikons and the Canons because that is what a lot of pros and consumers look to right off the bat. So I'm going to put them side by side from the top of the lineup down to the bottom of the lineup to help you decide which one you may want to go with. Now let me just say this. When you're starting out deciding should you go with Nikon or should you go with Canon, it really doesn't matter which one you go with. But when you go with one or the other, buy the best glass that you can and stick with it. Because at one time, like right now, we're in the end of cycle for the Canon current full-frame lineup, meaning it's older. The Nikon is at the beginning to the mid-cycle for most of their cameras, which means they may seem a little better right now, but the Canons are definitely really good. And as we move into 2015, they're probably going to be releasing newer, updated cameras. So this is recorded on December 2nd, 2014, so all the prices and comparisons that I'm doing right now are as of right now, with what's here on the table. I want to thank Borrow Lenses for hooking me up with some of these cameras that I didn't have in my lineup, and Alan's camera where I've purchased my other one. So let's get to the battle. It sounded like the Ultimate Chef guy, you know, he's like, let's get to the, anyway. Let's start with the Nikon D4S and the Canon 1DX, the flagships of both of the both companies. I own the D4S. I've been using it since it came out. I used the 1DX to shoot a Macklemore concert. I've used it to shoot skateboarders when I put it against the Nikon D4. You could see that popping up on the screen. Steven's going to make a note because I did do a video comparing those two. But they're both freaking fantastic. Right now, the Canon's at $6,000 and then the Nikon's at $6,496. So there's a difference in price right there of $500. Again, these are the top of the lineup. This one's doing 14 frames a second, you've got 11 frames a second down here, and it's just a matter of deciding which one do you feel more comfortable with. You have to look at it in terms of Nikon has a 14 to 24 2.8, Canon doesn't offer something like that right now. They have a 16 to 35 and rumors of a 12 to 24 or something like that that's coming out. But you have to take all of this into consideration. But on the Canon side, you have 85 1.2s. You have a 50 1.2. So if you're a portrait shooter, if you want that depth of field, Nikon can't do that with their current lineup. Nikon has stuck with the F mount since the 50s. Canon pissed a lot of people off in the early 90s, late 80s when they went to a new mount. But it's going to pay off for them in the future because the newer mount is larger and it allows them to do those better lenses with more glass, more optics, but still maintain the autofocus. Nikon never did that, and that's why they have some issues putting out certain better quality lenses. I can't tell you which ones of these to buy. I could put one of these in my bag, either one of them, and get fantastic results no matter which one I use. They're on par with each other. The Nikon's a little newer because this is a second version. This is an S, and this is the first version of a 1DX, but I can tell you that when the second one comes out, get ready for some fireworks from that. So moving down the list, let's go with the 5D Mark III, which we have right here, and then the Nikon D810. Both solid cameras. $3,099 at the time of recording for the 5D Mark III, $3,299 for the D810. We know the D810 has more megapixels at 36.3 than the Canon, which has what, 22.3. Unbelievable cameras. The 5D Mark III is one of the most well-rounded, most versatile cameras in the world or just ever made. Great for stills, great for photos, weddings, photojournalism. You can throw it into sports, you can throw it into concerts, you can shoot videos with it. A lot of the videos shot on FroknowsPhoto.com have been shot with the 5D Mark III. Not this video, but my Froknows Photo Guide to DSLR video. All of the filming of us making it was shot with a 5D Mark III. That's fantastic. On the Nikon side, what is the D810 for? You've got your weddings, not so much for sports, but definitely for portraits. Now, a lot of wedding photographers may shy away from it because of the 36 megapixels. You also can dumb it down to less with the RAW small, but Canon gives you all of the options for changing the RAW sizes, and that's something they've done for a long time, and Nikon is starting to catch up on. The Nikon, if you're looking at it for video, you're doing 1080 at 60 frames a second, where the 5D Mark III doesn't do 1080 at 60 frames. It does 1080 at 24. That to me is not really a deal breaker because I know when a 5D Mark IV comes out, again, this is a one generation. This is already a second generation because they had the D800 and the D800E, that the next version of this is going to be extreme and going to be an amazing camera. I've used them both. I think they both work out very well, and I keep spitting all over the table, but that's all right. It's my table. It's personal preference. I love the dynamic range I get from the from the D810. You're looking at 64 ISO native up to 12,800, and then I wrote this down here. We've got 100 ISO to 25,600 natively. They're going to be comparable. I think that the 5D Mark III will do better in most low light situations, but the D810 is really doing well, and it's just a solid camera, great dynamic range. Again, it's a crapshoot. It comes down to what you're shooting and what you're going to do with it. I could go either way with these. Again, you have to figure out which one is for you and what you're going to do. One of those complaints is larger file size, but again, they both have 2 card slots, not a deal breaker on either of them. Then moving to the next part of the lineup, comparing, we have the Nikon D750, but that thing stands on its own. There is nothing on the Canon side that fits the D750 mold. You can go down to the Canon 6D, you can go up to the 5D Mark III, but the D750 is $2296, and that is a solid camera. I have a full real-world review of that camera body up on the website, as well as a full review of the Nikon D810, which I forgot to mention earlier. But the 750 is an extremely solid, well-rounded camera for both stills and for video. It's one of those places where if you were deciding today to make a purchase and you had $2,500 or less to spend on just a body, I would be leaning towards a D750. That is a very suitable camera. But then it comes to, if you had a little bit more money, you're going to have to decide between an 810 and a 5D Mark III, and that could go either way. A lot comes down to glass. Again, what good glass are you going to put? I'll just say it again, glass. Put quality glass on whatever camera you're using, and you're going to get better results than using crappy glass. There is no ifs, ands, buts around that. So we have that. The D750 stands on its own. And then, moving to the end of it, we've got the 7D Mark II, which we felt including in this video was necessary because it's it's not a full frame, but the build quality is professional. The 10 frames a second is professional. The autofocus capability, 65 autofocus points, all cross type, is insane. If that body right there was a little bit more than $17.99 and full frame, and it did maybe 8 frames a second, that could be a deal breaker, and not a deal breaker. That could be a winner chicken dinner that could beat out the Nikons if they did that. So the 7D Mark II is here because it's a solid camera. I have a full review, real-world review up of that as well. And the Nikon D610, which is right here, is $1596. The Canon 6D is $1599 at this time of recording. The 6D is a little old at this point, waiting for an upgrade because it has 1 cross-type sensor and only 11 focusing points. The D610 has 39 focus points, but they're more scrunched up in the middle. That was one of the complaints that a lot of people had. You're doing, what, 6 frames a second there, 4.5 frames a second with that one. ISO range is 100 to 6400 with this camera. So with the 6D, you have a very expanded range here. Let me get my notes because I want to get it right. You have 100 to 25,600. That's an extreme range. I really loved using this camera, and I do have a review of that as well. It's a solid camera. I just don't know that you can buy it right now when it comes to where it sits in the market. It's cheap. It's inexpensive. Maybe as a backup to a wedding shooter, it could come in handy throwing it in your bag with a 5D Mark III. But right now, I don't think I can say buy this. The 7D Mark II, of course, that's up to you. If you're shooting sports, you want that 1.6 crop factor, that's on you. But if you want full frame and you want to get into it pretty darn cheap and inexpensive, the D610 is a very nice option. So if I had to pick between the 3 of those cameras, I'd probably be jumping into the Nikon D610 area. As nice as it is to have the 7D Mark II shoot 10 frames a second and have the autofocus, I can't get past the non-full frame. I think moving into full frame is really important. Now the focusing and the speed of that camera blows away the 610, but then you could move up to a Nikon D750. Of course you're not going to get the same frames per second, but there's a trade-off, and everything is a pros and cons because none of these cameras are perfect. The D750 is pretty darn close to being one of the best cameras I've ever seen in an affordable range. If I had to make a choice for myself to make a purchase and I had a lot of money as a full-time professional, it's going to be between a 1DX and a D4S or the future of whatever the 1DX is. I could see shooting Canon myself. I would have no problem doing it. Just switch over the glass that I had. Pro glass on these bodies is going to be amazing. No matter which way you decide to go, stick with what you go with. When you get into the full frame world, grow with that. Spend the money on the glass, whether it's Nikon or Canon, and then make sure that you stick with it because both of these companies are going to keep pushing ahead. Yes, you've got Sony and Samsung and Panasonic and all these other brands out there, but right now they're not ready for prime time. I'm going to say that because of the lens choices that you have on the Nikon and the Canon sides. A lot more used options, a lot more new options. They just have it right now as of this date, December 2nd, 2014. So I'm going to quickly check my notes one more time. Remember that the Canon's old in the cycle that it's currently at. They're going to be upgrading it pretty soon. Look for new cameras in first quarter of 2015 is my guess. Probably a new 5D Mark III replacement and maybe an upgrade to the 1DX and some new lenses. So that's where I'm going to leave it. This is an ultimate battle. Everybody's always saying, why do you want to go with Nikon or why should I go with Canon? It doesn't matter. Get good glass. You're going to get great results. That is an overview of the full frame systems plus the 7D Mark II that I'm going to tell you about, and that is where I'm going to leave it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya. So I hope you enjoyed that ultimate battle between Nikon and Canon, but if you like the videos that I'm creating, go ahead and subscribe here on YouTube so you can be notified when I put out new videos, which I do quite often. Now, if you want to see some real-world reviews and reviews of any of these cameras, I went ahead and put together a playlist for real-world reviews that you can go ahead and click up on the screen to be taken right to them. So again, don't forget to sign up for the Froknows Photo email list. Just look for the orange box, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I will send you a free guide to capturing motion in low-light situations. Thank you guys so much for watching. See ya.